Hi guys, and today is a little bit of a different video because I'm finally going to actually do a review of my bike. This is the Ribble CGR AL gravel bike. I've owned it since 2019 and I bought it from new from Ribble. What was most exciting about this bike is that it's the first one, I think, that I've ever owned from new. It's certainly the first one that I've ever bought. Perhaps I had kids' bikes from new, but even then I think they were mainly rescued or built by one of my parents. So this was my first brand new just my bike that I had bought, and it was really, really exciting. I bought it for £999.99 in November 2019, and it has been my absolute go-to bike ever since. I also have a mountain bike, but aside from mountain biking and some gravel riding, I use my Ribble for everything. I'm actually going to try and find out how many miles I've ridden my Ribble over the last 5 years. I reckon it's a lot, not as much as a lot of you will have ridden, but it's going to be quite a lot. So I literally have the bog standard factory finish Ribble CGR AL. The only thing I changed was in the order process was the handlebar width, and I will put it on the screen what my handlebar width is, but I think it might be 40. Oh, I can't remember. I'll put it on the screen. I really didn't have much idea of what I needed on a gravel bike because I'd never owned one before, and I hadn't owned a road bike since I was a kid, really. So what I really wanted was a comfortable gravel/road bike that could kind of be my go-anywhere bike, including cycle touring. Primary reason though why I bought the Ribble and didn't customize it at all except for the handlebar width was because it was already a lot of money. Like, £1,000 is a reasonable amount of money, and this was even before bikes had got as expensive as they are today. So I really wanted to keep it that kind of base price, which is why I have the bog standard factory kind of style of the CGR AL. On their website, you can customize anything you want so easily. As you go to that page, you can customize everything from your wheels, your tyres, what accessories you want, the colour even, the handlebars, the saddle, anything you want to customize, you can do it. I didn't really know what I wanted, and I liked the price point that the base price was at, so this is what I got. I chose Ribble because I had looked at quite a few different brands, and there's just a lot, there's a lot to choose from, and I don't really like spending a ton of time going back and forth. I like the fact that Ribble is a British brand, and I like the fact that it seems to do everything that I wanted to. I didn't need the fanciest group sets, I didn't need the fanciest this, that and the other. I just needed a bike that I could trust, that I could rely on, that was going to be comfortable and that would fit me really well, and that was at my price point. So ultimately that led me to the Ribble. So over the last 5 years I've ridden this Ribble on gravel, road, in triathlon and bike touring, and frankly it's been great for all of them. I have 2 sets of tyres for it, so I have my gravel tyres which are hanging up, and they're the ones that came with the bike, and then I have my road tyres which I change for events primarily. So if I'm doing a sportive or a race, I will put my road tyres on. For almost anything else, I'm going to have my gravel tyres on it. And I'll tell you why. I don't actually ride much gravel on the Ribble. The only kinds of gravel that I ride on the Ribble are off-road cycle ways, so bridle paths and Eurovelos, hard packed gravel. This bike is fantastic for that. The tyres are fantastic, but mainly my bike handling skills can cope with that level of gravel. When gravel gets quite rocky and rubbly and really unstable, I don't know how people do it. It's not a skill set that I have really worked on, and so I always ride my mountain bike for that because it's wide handlebars, super stable, really comfortable, and better gearing. But one of the main reasons why I always have gravel tyres on this gravel bike is because I live in quite a rural area, so all the roads around here are lanes, and the lanes are constantly have this level of grit and gravel and mud and grass in them, and it's basically an obstacle course. It's quite difficult to ride road tyres around here, especially in winter, but pretty much all the time road tyres are going to get you into trouble. So I usually only use them if I'm doing, just a road event that I want to keep my speed up on, or if I'm racing, so in a triathlon. I don't have a tri bike because I'm not that committed, but I really enjoy it, so I just use this with road tyres on for triathlon. But the gravel tyres are fantastic for that kind of I don't know if, I'm sure this happens in other countries too, but in Britain, loads of our lanes just are really gritty and sandy and muddy, and you just never know what you're going to encounter, and loads of potholes in this country. So gravel tyres are absolutely perfect for it, and I always really trust the bike with those tyres on them. So for road riding in Britain, this is absolutely perfect. It can handle shitty lane conditions, and you can obviously just change the tyres if you really were going to hit smooth tarmac all the time, and that's what you're after. So from that point of view, I love the fact that this bike can do both. It can do gravel and it can do road really, really well. It can handle any bridle path so far that I've taken it on. There are a few really, really rocky ones around here that I would probably only take my mountain bike down, but that's the fault of the bridle path, my skill level, not the bike. The other major thing that I've used the Ribble for is cycle touring, and I love it for cycle touring. So you can see kind of at the moment I've actually got an Alpkit handlebar bag and a top tube bag on it. That is because I was supposed to do an Audax the other day, my first ever Audax, which was recommended by one of you guys, and I signed up for it. And then I was really ill on that weekend, so I couldn't do Audax, unfortunately. So I was really gutted about that, but my bike is currently in Audax setup. But usually when I'm cycling, I would have a larger handlebar bag on, and then I have 2 Ortlieb panniers on the back with a rack. I don't currently have the rack on my bike because it's heavy and I didn't want that for an Audax. But I would normally have a rack and my 2 Ortlieb panniers on the back. I don't carry front panniers because I don't need to. I've only so far really been cycle touring for a week at a time, so front panniers as well would be overkill. But this bike has all of the, what are they called? It has all the bolts for a rear rack, so that's really easy to get on and off. So I can carry panniers and anything I want on the back, really. I have 2 bottle cages on it now and usually, and always when I'm bikepacking or cycle touring. And then obviously I can fit a handlebar bag just in my handlebars because the size of this bike is extra small. And so everything is obviously quite tight. You could also put a frame bag in the frame if you could find one that's small enough or have one made for you. The frame on the extra small is I think 50 centimeters across. There really isn't that much room on the extra small, but there wouldn't be on any extra small bike. Again, not a fault of the bike, that's a fault of genetics. Thank you, parents. But obviously you can set this up as a bikepacking bike really easily and it would be fantastic for that. I have never had any complaints from it while I'm cycle touring whatsoever, and I've taken it on all sorts of gravel, off-road, road. It's just so good for all of those things. This is a funny thing that I told my colleagues the other day and they genuinely were shocked, but I will tell it to you as well. And I've mentioned it before, but that was several years ago, so this is even more impressive. But yes, this is straight out of the factory setup. However, my gravel tyres and the inner tubes that I got with this bike, I still ride those inner tubes. They do not have a single puncture repair in them because I have never had a puncture with my gravel tyres or the inner tubes that came with this bike. Still riding the same inner tubes. So even Ribble's basic bike is giving you a sweet quality. I'm not much into tech on bikes. I don't know if you'd got that impression by now, but I really like the colour. It's a Shimano Tiagra group set. So that is by no means the fanciest one at all, but I certainly find that it's good enough for my needs. Obviously, everyone has different styles of riding a bike. They treat bikes more harshly or they put it through their paces more than perhaps I would. I also don't weigh very much, so I'm not putting huge amounts of force through the bike either. I might have a super small frame that can't fit 2 700ml bottles in it or a frame bag, but being this small does help you with punctures, I find, a lot of the time. At least that's my theory. It has through axles and hydraulic disc brakes, and frankly, that is as much as I know and as much as I care about. I think it weighs about 10 or 11 kilos, so obviously you can get lighter bikes if you spend more money, but I didn't have the money to spend at the time, and this bike is fine. I can shoulder it over railway station bridges should I need to. And if you want to find out how I've been taking my bike on trains recently, you can watch this video. So reviews can always be kind of weird because I'm not comparing it to anything. I've never owned a gravel bike before and I haven't owned a proper road bike since I was a kid, so I really have nothing else to compare it to. But what I can say is that I have had so much fun riding this bike. I have no complaints about it. It's a perfect weight for me. Sure, it'd be nice if it was a couple of kilos lighter, but wouldn't every bike? I mean, if they didn't weigh anything at all, that would be bliss. But physics. It has coped with what I've put it through tremendously well. It's coped with races, being shoved in the car. It's coped with cycle touring. It's coped with living out in the rain sometimes. It's coped with being on Zwift, which it lives on sometimes as well. It's coped with taking it down inappropriate trails for mine or perhaps its skill level. It's coped with mud and winter and many things. It's very comfortable to ride, although again, I don't have much to compare it to apart from my mountain bike, which is also very comfortable to ride. But I have no complaints with dragging it up Dartmoor hills and dragging it down Dartmoor hills and going over potholes and pottering about in hilly Devon. You could obviously spend a massive amount of money on your gravel bike. If you're being tempted to spend a ton of money on a gravel bike, especially if you're new to gravel riding or you want it for something like I do, which is your go anywhere bike, then just be careful where that marketing is leading you, because as with anything, it gets to a point where your skill starts holding the product back. Like, I could be on a £10,000 gravel bike, but that's not going to make me a better cyclist or a more capable cyclist. And this bike does me absolutely fine on all of my adventures. So better equipment doesn't necessarily make you a better cyclist. And a lot of the time, the pleasure that you get in cycling is actually based far more on your skill and fitness level than it is on the equipment you're riding. Now, obviously, if you're going to buy a £100 bike from Halfords, you're going to have a pretty terrible time. But if you're going to buy a £1,200 bike, now I think £1,300 bike, you're probably going to have a wicked time, unless you're incredibly good at gravel cycling and can really feel the difference between Tiagra and GRX, is it? The really fancy gravel group sets? I don't even know. So if it's a question between remortgaging your house to buy an incredibly fancy gravel bike that you can show off to all your mates with, or just staying within a more civilized financial region and buying something like this, I recommend this every time. It's a fantastic bike. I hear so many great things about Ribble in general and other people who really, really enjoy riding their Ribble bikes, but this is basically their entry-level gravel bike, and I cannot fault it. In my perfect dream world, I would have a triathlon bike and a gravel bike and a road bike and a mountain bike and, I don't know, other bikes that exist, but I don't live in that world, and frankly my garage doesn't have that kind of space because you cannot see the array of shit that is behind this camera. But this has been my go anywhere bike for 5 years and I love it just as much today, if not more so, than I did when I first got it. It has been absolutely fantastic. And I still haven't had a puncture. So that's my review of the Ribble CGR AL. There's a lot of letters. If you have any specific questions about it that I haven't answered because I'm rambling, then please put them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. I'll also put some of the key technical specs in the description of this video. And also for reference, in case you're looking at sizing, I'm 5'4" and this is the extra small Ribble. Fire away with any questions you have, and thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.